Everybody, I now call to order the regular meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission, September 12th, 2017. We're going to start with our continued hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, we have a public meeting to consider a request for determination by Jameson Van Dyke regarding the determination of a stream being classified as perennial or intermittent. Address Pierce Street, map 412, lot 10. Is anybody present?
Me.
Yes, sir.
Trevor Fletcher. I'm with the Civil Engineering Group for it.
Okay.
And last time we spoke, we had discussed what the criteria was for just determining whether a stream was perennial or intermittent. And we came to the conclusion that we needed to have 4 days put through a calendar year that the stream dried up. So for the last couple months, we've been going out there every now and then. And finally, we have recorded 4 days this summer. I think everybody has, are they all dated for you? No? One was on July 6th, one was on August 2nd, one was on August 17th, and one was on August 25th. And all those pictures were dry. I believe Marco was out there and he also saw it dry at once. So that's what Paul was talking to him about today.
Yeah, I was out there on the August 17th and August 25th.
Okay.
So same days we went out there.
Yeah.
So on August 25th, it was dry.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, because I had a question about that picture.
Yeah, there's like a puddle there,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to,
pretty much.
Yeah, the puddle on the left side of the picture, that's upstream, and then as you continue downstream, that's where it dried up. And
no, I know it's
yeah,
impossible.
yeah. Tried to take the best pictures we could, but
It's pretty difficult when you're out there.
yeah, exactly. The lighting is not great.
So,
So based on that fact, we were hoping that the stream could be determined as intermittent.
Comments? Questions?
Marco, have you checked the drought status for that time period?
yeah, we weren't in the drill.
It's classified perennial on the other maps.
It's perennial on the USGS, so that's what they're trying to do now, is overcome that presumption.
So the rule is 4 days, not 4 consecutive? It's
Right.
4,
Correct.
4 days in a calendar year, okay.
There's another good recommendation in the laws, and this states the size of the watershed has something to do with it. And in the previous meeting, I calculated the watershed, and that was small as well. So it's just further proof.
All right.
One more question.
Yes.
Marco, the RDA don't have that in front of us. That's requesting simply the determination of the stream.
Correct.
Yes, a note of intent will be filed when the project is proposed.
I just wanted to double check that you weren't looking for determination on other resource
Yeah.
areas, so.
Yeah. And he notes that in the request.
So that
We will
is just
file
for
those.
the
Just for the-
classification of the stream.
Correct.
You don't need to open up the public for that, do you?
No, you
Yeah.
can, but you don't have to. It's an RDA.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Just a question for my own knowledge. How much of the stream is now going to be classified intermittent? The whole stream from beginning to end? Or?
So it'll be the section from basically the culvert that goes under the road and up from there, if I'm correct on that. But nothing downstream the roadway on Pierce Street.
I'll open up to the public. Does anybody want to speak on this RDA? Second time and last time? All right. Any issues closing public comment period? Okay. Marco, recommendations, sir?
I recommend whatever the commission feels comfortable doing. I can attest to being out there 3 days, 2 of which I witnessed were
dry.
completely dry. 4 sections of the stream that I had traveled. So not just in one spot, but several spots. And I have more evidence from the applicant here. So
Okay. Do I have a motion to consider it intermittent or something else?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we determine this to be an intermittent stream.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you. Any objections with grouping the next continued hearings all together?
No.
Okay. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Neighborhood Development Trust for the construction of a common sewer line to be constructed to be used by several single-family homes. Work is proposed within a wetland resource area, associated 100-foot buffer zone. Address is Atlantic Ave, map 256, lot 3D. Will also include Atlantic Ave, lot 2A, map 256, lot 3D. The first one, DEP file number is 1991050. Second one is Atlantic Ave, lot 2A, map 256, lot 3D, DEP file number 1991053. Third is Atlantic Ave, lot 3A, map 256, lot 3D, DEP file number 1991054. And fourth is Atlantic Ave, lot 4, map 256, lot 3D, DEP file number 1991052. And lastly, Atlantic Ave, lot 5, map 256, lot 3D, DEP file number 1991051. We have someone representing the applicant.
Yes, sir. On the record, Chris Anderson with Handicap Engineering, here on behalf of Neighborhood Development Trust. We were before the commission the previous meeting, and there's a few concerns that were raised. We feel like we've addressed these concerns that the commission made. Just to go through them, there was a concern raised about the roof drain being actually connected to the residential dry wells located on each one of the lots. As such, we've actually included additional piping networks and cleanouts and everything to show that if we can indeed get to discharge the entire roof drain system into the actual dry well to help the recharge and everything. The exception is lot 5 due to concerns over the grading and where the house is actually located. It's kind of difficult to get to that. So only half the house is going to be connected to that, but we still provide the actual recharge requirements for that lot for its total impervious area. If during construction the contractor can work his way around, we can definitely do that, but as such, it's just difficult to show that on a plan. One of the other major concerns was regarding the actual demarcation and permanent markings of the wetlands themselves. We are going to propose constructing a post and rail fence along the length of the disturbance, along with the Leominster demarcation signs, so that there's a permanent demarcation so that residents don't inadvertently start encroaching into the wetland and start causing issues. That would help that cause. The replication. We will be replicating the wetlands as quickly as possible. We will be in contact with the commission and the agents regarding what additional measures we need to be taken. It is a replication in place, so any plants that are removed from that area will be replanted the same. Further concern was raised over that people would start walking through the wetland crossing, as of now it would be pretty much an open, less growing area. As such, we're going to be proposing planting several high bush blueberry plants along that length to create more of a natural wall and to allow for the quicker revegetation, at least along that area. And whatnot. Those were the major concerns that were raised by the commission. If there's any more questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Questions, comments?
Question.
Yes.
The plantings, that's just in front of the I guess the sewer easement area.
Yes.
So where the rest of the split rail fence is, there's nothing else proposed there?
Nope, just split rail fence and then the wetland signs.
My own thought is I'd be more comfortable having plantings along the fence as well. Just it's still easy to, discard lawn refuse or other things with just a split rail fence there. But at least the planting, the combination of the both, might dissuade people from doing that.
Just thinking out loud, we're putting the markers, on a regular basis somewhere along the same spacing on the length of disturbance.
No, I understand that, but I also,
Well, in addition to the signs. And
Right.
things and everything like that.
yeah, signs and markers, my own experience with those is they don't do that great of a job. I mean, currently some of the, don't feed the ducks, don't feed the geese signs that we see, we quite often see people feeding them right there at that spot. So I'm not sure somebody's gonna read a sign back there and just automatically obey what it says. But if you make it difficult for somebody to actually do something, then that's all I have.
Question on the signage, you said on a regular basis, but what is the distance? How many signs and what's the distance?
We're doing 20-foot intervals along the length of the fence.
20 foot.
And are there any breaks in the post on that fence?
The only break is going to be right along the actual easement, just so there's actually access and eventuality, or if it has to happen, DPW has to get in. You can push through bushes, you can't really push through the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? Does anyone from the audience want to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and final time? Any objection to closing the public hearing? All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Marco, do you have any recommendations?
I agree with Brad that we should include plantings along the entirety of the fence. With that said, I guess I'll just go down the list here. I recommend we issue a standard order of conditions and a standard order boilerplate for Atlantic Avenue, map 256, lot 3D, for the utility line, DEP file number 199-1050. With the following added conditions. Trench dams to be incorporated with the proposed sewer line. And I would like a written approval of sewer line design from the Leominster DPW prior to the sewer line begins construction. Silt fence and straw walls to be installed and maintained as proposed on submitted plan. 24-hour written or verbal notice to conservation agent prior to start of work to allow for the inspection of erosion controls. And I would also request that the agent be present on site during the wetland disturbance for the utility line. Construction roadway entrance must be maintained and swept clean of dirt and debris prior to a forecasted rain event. I would also like to add wetland soil spoils to be encircled with additional erosion controls. Agents present on site while for the installation of trench dams. Overflow of dry wells, or excuse me, we'll stop there. I'll add this to the other ones. In regards to DEP file number 19910,
There's just one.
Yeah, well, Yeah, why don't we'll just vote on each one separately.
all right, yeah, that's better.
One
Thank
question
you.
on the-
Yeah.
On the boilerplate conditions, when you have wetland replication, is there sections specifically for that?
For
too?
wetland rep? Yes, there is.
That include monitoring and reports, or?
Find that. Before there was a separate section for that. It's probably buried in here somewhere. It's not a specific bullet item. It's not like a specific header item, but it's probably bulleted in here somewhere. I know I've read it before. Would you like to add something in regards to that?
I just wanted to make sure that it's there. It's important that the replication areas do get monitored by the wetland scientists and they report
Sure.
that it's been established.
I know I read something like that. But yes, we should add that regardless, just to reiterate it, that the wetland replication be monitored by certified wetland, professional wetland scientists.
Any other added conditions, Marco?
Other than that, no.
Okay.
If anybody has any more to add, though.
Do I have a motion for his recommendation plus his conditions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for Atlantic Avenue, Lot 3D, DEP file number 199-1050, with the added conditions that we just discussed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you. Recommendations on the other DEP file numbers. Do we want to do them singularly, or what else do we can do together? Do we want to do them separately?
I'll just do it separate, and if you want to vote on it after I'm
Okay.
done with it.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like we had any different conditions for these
Yeah.
than what that we were.
I know the sewer line was separate, but the housing was all the same, so.
I mean,
Unless you have some other recommendation, or you
No,
want to
it's gonna
see
be
something
standard
different.
for that. And
Okay, why don't we just group those together then? That's fine.
okay, regarding Atlantic Avenue, Lot 2, DP file number 199-1053, as well as Atlantic Avenue, Lot 3A, DP file number 199-1054, as well as Atlantic Avenue, Lot 4, DEP file number 199-1052, and Atlantic Avenue, Lot 5, DEP file number 199-1051. I recommend a standard order of conditions for each of these, along with a standard boilerplate with the following added conditions. That no stockpiles within 100 feet of the wetland. Silt fences, straw walls to be installed and maintained as proposed on submitted plan. 24-hour written or verbal notice to conservation agent prior to start of work to allow for the inspection of erosion controls. And construction roadway and entrance must be maintained and swept clean of dirt and debris prior to a forecasted rain event.
Do I have a motion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue 4 separate orders of conditions for the following properties: Atlantic Avenue, Lot 2A, DEP file number 199-1053. Atlantic Avenue, Lot 3A, DEP file number 199-1054. Atlantic Avenue, Lot 4, DEP file number 199-1052. And Atlantic Avenue, Lot 5, DEP file number 199-1051. With the added conditions as discussed by our agent, and also 2 more added conditions. One, that the dry wells for each of these lots be inspected prior to backfill, and also that the split rail fence contain a vegetative barrier with the plantings to be no more than 5 feet on center.
Do I have a second for that motion?
I just have a question on that. The post rail fence, if I'm reading this plan right, does not go beyond, it doesn't go behind lot 5 and lot 6, am I correct?
Yes.
It stops before 5
Yeah.
and 6, and I realize that's because you're after the 50-foot buffer zone and you're,
Yep, and
Right.
at that point you have to.
but, so the way you had it worded, the fence would be included in the 5 and 6, wouldn't it?
No, the plantings would only be included where the fence is.
Okay, that's, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion for all 4 lots.
All in favor? Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to our first hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, we will be public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Liberty Rental Corp. The construction of a single-family home and associated site grading work is proposed within a 100-foot buffer zone of the wetland resource area. Address Sheldon Hill Drive, Lot 7, Map 505, Lot 2G. Do we have a DEP file number on this, Marco?
Yeah, we do. We have his DEP file number, 2 seconds. DEP file number 1991055.
Okay. We have somebody representing the applicant.
Yes, sir. For the record, Chris Aronson, Handicap Engineering, here on behalf of Liberty Rental Corp. for the construction of a new single-family home located on Lot 7. The commission might remember that we were before you in last spring of 2016 for a change in the actual wetland delineation during the original submission of everything way back when the subdivision was approved. We feel that the field was being hayed, so the vegetation was being altered. As such, it's ended and the wetlands have encroached again back into their natural areas. This wetland delineation was approved under the previous order conditions, previous orders. So there's that. Due to the change in it, most of the lot is now located within the 100-foot buffer. We are going to propose installing a residential dry well again, connecting the roof drains into it, and then discharging. We'll be constructing a landscaped retaining wall. There are several stones and large supply of them out there on the project site themselves, so there is a majority or abundance of those rocks that we can construct the wall. This wall is going to both act as a leveling area for the house and also as a permanent barrier so that people don't encroach into the wetlands themselves. I was out there previously the last few days and it is quite overgrown where the wetlands are. So we're only going to disturb and trim as much as we need. Beyond that, it's going to remain as is. And also along that line, we'll be also placing again wetland demarcation signs along the lane to prevent, again, more people from entering that area. Most of the work is just general grading around the remaining portions of the site just to give the end user a little more yard space at the end of the day. We'll be using straw bottles and silt fence along the entire limit and for erosion protection. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to listen.
The first question I had is, it doesn't look like you're going to disturb any wetland. You are going to come close to it, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why the wall is there to help prevent that.
Is that wall going to go in early in the construction or at the end of construction?
So it'll probably go in kind of at the same time the foundation footing is getting constructed, kind of build it up as you go on.
Okay. So kind of at the beginning, once they grade it and start digging the cellar hole and go in, okay. And that's all rocks from the site and surrounding
Yes,
sites?
the site's pretty rocky, so
Yeah.
there's plenty of rocks.
I remember it out there a little bit, yeah, okay. The only thing I want to emphasize is that erosion controls be installed correctly, approved by the conservation agent prior to construction and even checked during construction, because from what I remember, the site was pretty steep,
Yes,
so,
very steep.
yeah.
Also like to add that those erosion controls should be connected to the existing erosion controls on site, and there is a washout of erosion controls on the other site next door to it, so that's gonna have to be fixed by the property owner. I'll get in touch with them, but I'd like that all an inclusive line of erosion controls.
So lot 6
Correct.
is one we proved that's built and owned by a resident now?
Correct. Yeah.
So right here.
Okay. Okay. Any other commission members, questions, comments?
The washout is on lot 6,
Yes.
and are there plans to fix that?
I think there's gonna have to be a plan to fix that. From what it looks like to me is that a lot of the erosion is either stemming from the roadway area, like sheet runoff from there, but I almost wanna say, the downspout for the gutter, was close by to that erosion spot.
It isn't that, because we had those black tubes on there so that the gutter wasn't doing that, and it still eroded out.
Alright, so we're gonna have to take a peek at that and, see what we can do.
I remember being out there a year ago or whatever it was, and it was a pretty extensive line there, so we're gonna have to definitely make sure that we protect that area, whether it goes on to someone else's lot or not during construction, so. Just make sure you follow up with the homeowners here, figure out a resolution. Any other comments, questions? Sure.
Is there any reason that you tied the footing drain into the dry well?
Just because where the elevation is and how we can sink the basin or that well a little bit lower in the ground, we can connect right into it, just to provide, again, a little more recharge, into the well, but there's no real.
Okay, I guess my take is I prefer you not to do that, because what's gonna happen is that it looks to me like you're potentially about 8 feet into the ground, so if you are gonna intercept seasonal high groundwater there and have that footing drain actually function, it's just gonna fill up the dry well, and it's gonna remain full. So when you do have rain events or things of that nature, you're not gonna get recharged. You're either gonna keep it full all the time while groundwater's high, and you're not going to be able to take advantage of the drier times of the year when groundwater is low and actually get recharged there. So I think you should separate them.
Absolutely. Measurable.
You want to just daylighting it, or?
Just daylight the footing drain.
No foundation drain.
Paul, do you have a question?
I was getting back to the erosion on lot 6. Is the developer of lot 6 the same as the developer right now for lot 7?
No, Mr. Scola was the developer of lot 6. We don't have a developer for lot 7, at least that wasn't stated in the notice of intent. Mr. Anderson, do you have any idea who?
So to be Liberty Rent-A-Core, I know that individual contractor, I do not know at this point in time.
All right, okay, so that can be hashed out, but I'll be getting in touch with Mr. Scola regarding lot 6. Even though the property has transferred since then, we'll figure something out.
Okay. That's all you have? Any other members? Questions? I'll open up to the public. Anybody like to speak on this notice of intent? No?
We just want to make sure that we're taken care of, like, I'm not sure, like, you know, the walls being built there, if it's just gonna end, like, on the property line, like, you know what I mean? I just want to make sure it's taken care of properly.
We can look into it when we can get out to the site and do construction and see what can be done. But right now, we kind of keep it right next to the property line, a feet off of it, just so that we can keep the grading around it working.
Yeah, we just don't want ours to deteriorate more because of what you're doing on 7.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, all they have to do is address this property, but hopefully in good faith, they tie the landscaping and construction together so it does not affect your property and help this property in any way, so. Anybody else like to speak on this notice of intent? Third and final time? Any objections, closing the public hearing? Okay, now declare the public hearing closed. Do I have recommendations, Mr. Mangrazzi?
I recommend a standard boilerplate, standard order condition and a standard boilerplate for Sheldon Hill Drive, Lot 7, DEP file number 199-1055. With the following added conditions: that silt fence and straw wattles to be installed as proposed on the submitted plan. I would actually also like to see some silt fence and straw wattles extend up the property line between lot 6 and 7, kind of splitting them up. Maybe go halfway up the hill. I don't go the full way, but I would like to see that. 24-hour written or verbal notice to conservation agent prior to start of work to allow for the inspection of erosion controls. No stockpiles within 100 feet of the wetland. Construction roadway and entrance to be maintained, swept clean dirt and debris prior to the forecasted rain event. Permanent demarcation wall to be constructed congruently with site grading. And do not discharge footing drain into the dry well, preferably daylight footing drain. And that's it.
All right, I would just like to add, seeing that there is a breach and some erosion issues, that all care be taken that it does not affect any abutting lots during construction, at least. And Marco, you can work with the owners of lot 6 and with erosion controls and whatnot. I appreciate that. Do I have a motion for this project with Marco's conditions and or something else?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for Sheldon Hill Drive, Lot 7, DEP file number 285-1055. Is that the number, Marco?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. With the conditions that were just discussed.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
610. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Backlot Realty Trust for the construction of an 870 square foot addition, associated parking and site improvements. Work is proposed with a 100-foot floodplain and a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland. Address 152 Hamilton Street, Lot 238, map 238, Lot 5. Do we have a DEP file number on this or any?
Yes, we do. This will be DEP file number 199-1056.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Patrick McCarty Engineering. Also with me this evening is Brian Marchetti, who's our Vice President of Engineering. If I may suggest, I know we're past the time published for the hearing, so maybe we should
Do you want to
open
go
all three
all
at
three of
the
them?
same time, because that's really how we looked at the design of the project, was really 3 integrated projects. So unless any commission member had an objection,
Any objections? Okay. All right, we'll open it up for 156 Hamilton Street, lot 238, map 238, lots 1 and 2. And 162 Hamilton Street, map 238, lots 1-1. What about DEP file numbers? Is it 3 separate, I'm assuming?
Yeah, they are. So for 156 Hamilton Street, we're looking at DEP file number 199-1058, and 162 Hamilton Street is 199-1057.
Okay.
I stated before, but 152 Hamilton Street is 199-1056.
Okay.
okay, great. Thank you very much. Again, for the record, Patrick McCarty Engineering, and we're here on behalf of the 3 property owners to present the 3 separate notice of intents to you this evening. Just to orient everybody, Hamilton Street is here along the top of the page. Nashua River is here off the plan, so this is heading towards Route 13. That would be heading towards Route 12, and the famous dome would be right here to the side of the project. I know we tried to coordinate a site visit, and unfortunately, everybody's schedule didn't work out, so hopefully the commission members had a chance to make it over there. Start off with some existing conditions. So we had Ecotech, who's our wetland consultant from Worcester, go out and do a delineation. A copy of their wetland resource evaluation is attached to the notice of intent that was submitted. They identified the A series, which is a BBW, which is shown here, flags A1 through A11. And they also identified an isolated vegetated wetland, which is the B series, which is B1 through B7, that's just east of the A series. Once the delineation was complete, we had Whitman & Bingham Associates go out and complete a full topographic survey of the 162 Hamilton Street property, the 156 Hamilton Street property, and roughly the front half of the 152 Hamilton Street property. This was formerly the Red Line Wall Systems office. Some of you might remember it as like a mint green, or most recently a coffee brown colored building. This is the law office of David Rochford that was constructed a couple years ago. And then this is the Doors Unlimited commercial door shop that's in the rear. It's a tilt slab concrete building that's been there, oh geez, I would guess since the 70s. So the 3 projects that we have before you this evening, starting with 152 Hamilton Street, which is the Doors Unlimited. If you're familiar with the site right now, there is a cinder block retaining wall that acts as an exterior loading dock. So when they receive tractor trailer deliveries, they would back up to that loading dock. This is all paved in this area, and the fork truck would come across, and there's an overhead door on the front of the building. That's not the best situation for a New England operation, so they'd like to enclose that loading dock. And so what we're proposing is a 870 square foot addition to the front of the building that allows for 1 drive-in door and 1 dock height door, and the existing cinder block wall would be removed, and this area would all be regraded to create compensatory flood storage. To get access to the drive-in door, we have a proposed retaining wall, and then we have some regrading and paving in the area. This is all bordering land subject to flooding in this area of it anyways. And then some work in the 100-foot buffer zone to create a handicap accessible ramp, the drive-in ramp, and the paving. Really kind of a limited project proposed on the, limited amount of work proposed on the Doors Unlimited building. There's no utility work, and then the grading, and this is a reduction in impervious area, and then some grading to create compensatory storage. On the David Rochford building, this is the existing building. As I mentioned, it was built a couple years ago. It was permitted through the planning board and also through city council at the time, handled floodplain special permits. And there was an order of conditions issued for the construction of this building, and all of the parking and the parking spots here along the side, plus actually three of these proposed spaces were shown on the original site plan, those 3 there. This was originally proposed as a 2-story building. At the time, the 100-year floodplain elevation was 328, which Coincidentally, it's about the window sill elevation on each of those buildings. So they were built with flood-proof construction. They have 13-inch concrete reinforced slabs that are gasketed. A whole big to-do to construct those two buildings. With the revised floodplain elevation now, it's 322, so both of the primary structures are out of that. So instead of going up 2 stories, which was getting us out of the floodplain at that time, we're proposing to take what was the second floor and put it on the rear of the building to support the growth of Attorney Rochford's practice. Fortunately, there's adequate parking here and here existing, so we're only asking to add these 6 spaces along the side. We're expanding the landscape area in between the parking and the building. Proposing a sidewalk to the back door to provide a second means of egress. And we're proposing a filter strip here at the edge of the pavement for the runoff. Really, there's no grade change between the elevation. There's maybe a foot between the wetland and the paving, so it's just enough to create a vegetated swale. There's really no depth to do any kind of detention basin or catch basins or anything of the like. And then the third project is the former Red Line Wall Systems building. This is all paved to here in the existing condition. We're proposing to add a 2,000 square foot addition to the rear of the building. That's 25, so we'll have a total of 4,500 square feet. This will be the new home of Coakley Family Dental that's located on Electric Avenue in Fitchburg. So they're looking to move their practice to a new modern facility here in Leominster. And to support the number of chairs required for the practice, we've come up with the addition size and the parking to support both the staff and the patrons of the business. To minimize impact to the floodplain, we've taken the existing precast block retaining wall that runs the limit of the existing pavement and moved it out. That's this bold line shown here and runs along the back of the building. That's to provide access for utilities, gas, and electric are at the rear of the existing building, and we're proposing to move those back. We have an elevated dumpster pad that would be in a solid white vinyl enclosure that would be accessed. The truck would pull straight in here. We do have an existing stormwater catch basin here that discharges to grade at the base of the existing wall and then runs through the grass to the wetland series. We're proposing to connect that into an underground infiltration basin of approximately 40 chambers, storm check chambers, that would outlet here where the riprap is shown. The hay bale, the proposed hay bale line is shown here. That would be for all 3 projects. So our company would be the design builder for the entire Coakley Family project. So we would do the site plans, permitting, and assuming approval from this commission and also the planning board, then we would also be site contractor and general contractor for the entire build-out, demolition and build-out of the new facility. We did all the site work for the Rochford building, and we would again do the same for the addition, assuming approval, and then we would be site contractor and building contractor for the Doors Unlimited edition. So we would be involved in all 3 projects from permitting to completion, completely construction, site work, and complete construction. As I mentioned, this is in the 100-year floodplain, which was revised. As I mentioned, originally the 100-year floodplain was at elevation 328. Some of you that have been Leominster residents for a long time might remember the dam that was at what's now Baker Cadillac. Used to be Mead Paper. There was a wooden dam, and I'm sure Mr. Bonanza, Leominster's historian, would certainly remember that. There was a wooden dam structure that was at Baker Cadillac. And I want to say Hurricane Gloria is what took that out. And that was an 8-foot high dam. So you had 8-foot staging up behind it. The bridge over Route 13 by Baker Cadillac is an arched bridge, so as the floodwaters got higher, the cross-sectional area got less and less and less, so that was a further constriction. So that was another 5 feet of stage storage behind Route 13, which pushed the 100-year flood elevation in this area way up to the 328 that it was at. So Whitman and Bingham provided FEMA data a few years ago, and they issued a LOMA for this area that dropped the 100-year floodplain from 328 to 322, which is an improvement, but it still doesn't make any sense to me, to be perfectly honest with you. The finished floor elevation of Macy's at the mall is 301. So if you have a flood at 322, that tells me that pretty much all of Whitney Field is underwater, because you have a continuous corridor from Whitney Field right up to Nashua, right under Route 13, and right to this site. And without some other bold constriction that's forcing that water back to us, it would have to reach that elevation at the mall to work its way back up. So FEMA did a good job improving from 328 to 322, but you know, if you apply some logic to it, it still doesn't make any sense to us. That being the case, we've still provided the foot-by-foot compensatory storage calculations. The green areas are the areas that we're proposing to fill. This is the 100-year floodplain line, which is this dashed line, so it goes like this, 322. And I'm losing it in the color here, it goes around like this, 322 that way. And so there's your 100-year floodplain in here. It's staging up. Oh, that's fine. It's staging up the river. It's coming across the back lot, which was Mackenzie Construction at the time, and it floods across this way. So we have proposed fill from the retaining wall, the proposed retaining wall to the existing retaining wall, and proposed fill from the sidewalk to the sidewalk. You can see that we've just mirrored that design down. And then we have excavation here in the red area, and Brian provided a table on a foot-by-foot basis that shows that for each elevation, we're increasing flood storage volume for a total of 1,774 cubic feet increase over those elevations in the flood area. We did receive DEP file numbers just today, and to be honest, I was in the field, so I don't know, Brian, if you want to speak to the comments that were issued from DEP. I haven't had a chance to see those because I was on the job site until now.
Yeah, so I spoke with Gary Dolman at DEP, who's a reviewer for these projects this afternoon, and he was in direct communication with John Roseberry and Mark Emery at the DPW. So he said, obviously and he just issued these today, so he hasn't gotten his own comment list together, but he said his comments mimicked exactly what DPW issued to us last week. So I did respond last week in a comment letter back to planning board, and I brought a copy to Marco as well, responding to DPW, Board of Health, all the town departments, conservation that issued a letter or comments to us. So I have that letter here. I don't know if you want to go through each one individually or just speak to the ones that DEP had concerns with.
Would you like to review that, Marco? Is it lengthy?
It's lengthy. I emailed it to you all.
I mean, there are really only a couple that
Yeah.
that DEP talked about today with me. I don't know if either of those we can just briefly go over.
You touch on the DEP comments.
Yeah.
So really there were two items that DEP wanted to discuss. It was, let's see, comment number 9 for the DPW, which states, according to the site plans of proposed impervious area for all 3 projects, 2 of the projects increase, this one decreases. We wanted to know how all the stormwater comments or stormwater standards were addressed, and explained to him in detail today that the site was modeled as a mix of new development and redevelopment. When you look at the development of 152 Hamilton Street, there's a reduction in 4,500 square feet of impervious area. Roachford's property, there's an increase in 4,000 square feet of impervious area, so there's still negative 500 square feet of impervious for the project. So looking at these 2 properties, there's no stormwater controls required for garage doors unlimited. The increase in impervious area here, if you look at them both, there's still a net reduction. However, with the increase in impervious area over here, we did add a crushed stone filter strip, which leads to, it's almost 200 feet of vegetated, manicured lawn area. So stormwater BMPs recall, it's the definition of a vegetated filter strip. You're allowed a 25% TSS removal for a P filter, a keystone diaphragm with 50 feet of grass area, where we have 150 feet, so it's more than adequate to provide that 25% TSS removal. So as a redevelopment, this site, these two sites meet the stormwater standards to the maximum extent practical. The project occurring over here for Coakley Family Dental resulted in an increase of about 6,700 square feet of impervious area. So because of that, we've designed a stormwater system that meets all 10 standards. And I want you to know too that previously all this parking area that existed before only went to a catch basin, and now we're taking everything and going through catch basins, through an isolator route and through an infiltration system. So in addition to just what we're proposing as redevelopment, the entire paved area is getting treated now above and beyond what was there before. So when you look at these as a redevelopment, it meets the standards. And when you look at this as a proposed development, the new development, we exceed all 10 standards. And that's all outlined in the stormwater management report that I submitted.
So I think tied to that is we've looked at this as designing really one project and grading and compensatory flood storage calculations, because really the floodplain doesn't know property lines, right? It goes where it wants to go, it's water. When that's the same approach that we've taken, our company's taken since 1979 when we did the first permitting for the mall at Whitney Field for the Coakley family, is the same thing, is all the flood storage for the whole mall is all around the perimeter, and the different developments that have occurred, the cinemas, even as new as the 110 Grill, all of that has worked off of that same data. So we've taken the same approach here. The reason that we filed 3 separate notice of intents is simply because there's 3 different owners, and so for title-wise, it's the cleanest way to have, hopefully, an order of conditions recorded against each one of those and a certificate of compliance recorded against each deed, to keep it clean on that perspective. But as far as an engineering perspective, we kind of ignored the property lines, as we always have, because at one point, Redline actually owned all this property. This was their office, this was their vacant lot, and this was their door shop. And actually, when we designed and permitted the original Roachford building, the flood storage for this building, which was on the old flood maps, is actually up behind Sandy Tank on Lanity's Lane. If you go all the way to the end of Lanity's Lane where MP Crowley's new building is, and go to the back of that, you'll find a retaining wall that's, I don't know, 15 feet high, and that gets you back down to elevation 322, so when the river stages up and around, we created flood storage there for here. So it's been the practice in the past is to look at it kind of globally and not just zoom in on the property to make it all work. Because really that's what it matters in the end, is as long as the flood storage is there in the event of the 100-year flood, whether it's on my property or Brian's property or your property, as long as the flood storage is being provided, that's how we looked at it.
Still all hydraulically connected.
Yep. So. And then the other comment was relative to the infiltration basin being under water in the event of a 100-year flood. We kind of have a two-stage response to that. The engineering response is we've proposed to add a duckbill to the outlet pipe for that, because you have this retaining wall here. So the floodplain is going to stage against that retaining wall. It's just where the pipe comes through that wall is where it would be able to infiltrate back into the system. So by putting a duckbill on that, that will prevent the water from going up, but it'll allow the water to come out when the system's functioning properly, not in a 100-year flood situation. Going back to my other comment that if we really have a flood at 322 and all of Hamilton Street and everything down to the mall the floods up at 322, I think we have a lot bigger problem than 38 or 40 chambers underwater. So, you know, unfortunately, those are the maps that we're stuck with. I think as more data is provided to FEMA and that map is continually updated, I think a lot of this will come out of the floodplain. I know historic, in a kind of hearsay manner, is Peter Reynolds' family has owned that back lot for 60 years previous to selling it to Redline, who owns it now, and there's never been more than 4 inches of water in that lot in the last 65-year history in the biggest events that have gone through. And so that's down at what, 318? So that would be another, I don't know, 4 feet of water above that. I have a hard time comprehending that, what it would look like in Leominster if we really did have a flood to 322, other than the fact that FEMA says that's the number on the map.
And one other thing I want to point out that's important to note, if it ever does stage up to that 322 elevation, if the pond is ever headwater or tailwater that's holding back the flows and the pond can't function as designed, the finished floor elevation of the building's at 325.5. That's the elevation around most of the perimeter of the site. At the entrance of the site, we're at 325. The low point down here is at 324.9 and 324.8. So if these catch basins ever did surcharge, water couldn't get through the system before it goes off the property, either property line out in the street, it's always gonna flow over the back of the wetland anyway. So we'll never have flooding that does occur into the right of way or onto the abutter's property. It will always flow back and go over and around the dumpster pad out to the wetland where it originally would flow.
Any other comments from DEP?
Those are the two we
Those
discussed
two.
today.
Okay.
So I guess in closing, before we open it up to comments, is, we feel that we've worked to design a project for the 3 sites together that meets the standards of the Wetlands Protection Act, and we feel is permittable, and we hope that the commission sees it the same way and votes to issue an order of conditions, really to support the growth of 2 existing Leominster businesses and also to welcome a 3rd business into the city in this corridor that's seen some good development over the last 10 years. So we thank you, and here to answer any questions.
I would like to make the comment is, I appreciate the amount of work you guys put into this. I think it's fairly decent, and as an engineer myself, it's pretty practical of what you propose here. So I guess my first question is, what is the timeline of each site? Is it going to be all at the same time? Are they going to be doing it in stages? Or?
So we'd like to move forward right away on the Coakley project. Dr. Coakley's actually here in the audience this evening. We have Brent Heinzer, who's a Fitchburg architect, working on the plans as we speak for that project. Redline would also like to, well, Doors Unlimited, I say Redline, but it's the same guys. They'd like to move forward right away on the addition to the door shop. And I know Attorney Rochford would like to move forward pretty much right away on his as well. He's fortunately already filled up his space, and he's looking to expand. So as I mentioned, we would do the site work component for that, and WDC, who built the original building, would build the addition. So definitely Coakley in the fall of this year. I would say most likely Doors Unlimited in the fall, if not spring, and same for Rochford, either fall or spring, but they're all looking to go forward right away. Regardless of the timing of the other 2, we would have to do the compensatory flood storage excavation to be able to, we couldn't build Coakley's and say, oh, we'll get to the compensating storage later.
I guess, yeah, I mean, that's I guess kind of my question is.
So these two would go right away together. And then, whether or not Rochford's addition goes now or goes in the spring, as long as we create the compensatory storage for the area that we're filling, that would be the plan.
Okay. I guess that was my question is.
Yep.
Because you looked at it as kind of one project.
It needs to be done as one.
It kind of needs to be done.
And it makes sense, I mean, if we're in there with an excavator,
Yeah.
it looks big on the plan, but to walk from there to there, it's not that far away, so it would make sense to get it all done at the same time.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I have, just want to expand on, I have the same concern that you did, Dan, I believe. And Patrick, I agree with your approach on the design part of it. Looking at it as a whole is fine as far as I'm concerned. However, you have the issue of you have 3 separate orders of conditions to 3 separate properties with different owners.
Yes.
So, and I've been in this position many times, projects for some reason may not happen. We may have some big economic or world event tomorrow and 2 of these may back out while the other one's ongoing. So what mechanism would you suggest that would allow the commission to enforce these 3 separate orders For instance, on one of the lots requiring that they do work on somebody else's, because the way that the regulations and the orders are issued, it doesn't give us that ability.
Well, that's how we handled it, because at the time when we permitted the Roachford building, there was the requirement to create the compensatory storage on Landry's Lane prior to constructing the building. And so I think the same condition is prior to, or concurrently with construction of the Coakley Family Dental project, you'd have to create the compensatory storage for everywhere.
So one would have to be contingent on
Absolutely.
the other.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't work. I can't create compensatory storage on Coakley's project alone, which is why we've worked together, as we've always worked together up and down the street to make everything balance out. And so that's why we're proposing the grading the way we're proposing it on the Doors Unlimited. So I think it would be a condition. You know, you have to create, and it could be as simple as that. The compensatory storage must be created prior to certificate of occupancy on either one of the projects.
Construction-wise, sequencing-wise, you're doing the compensatory first? I'm just questioning, can you do the compensatory before you do the building construction?
Given the time of year, I'd like to not have that. I mean, the first thing I'd like to do is get in there and get the foundation in so the building can get going.
Yeah. We can't condition a CO, that's my concern.
Okay.
We can put that in our order, but the building inspector under the building code, if the building's complete, he's obligated to issue that.
Well, prior to issuance of a certificate of compliance, you have that ability.
Again, I'm trying to get to the point where we're not trying to enforce something that's already been done. So,
Yeah.
you know, whether someone comes to us for a certificate of compliance or not, there's many times people don't even do that.
Right. I understand that.
So I guess that's what I'd like a little bit more thought put into. If you're gonna approach these 3 individual permits as a whole and take advantage of stormwater mitigation for some area and another flood compensatory for all of them, then that's fine by me as long as we've got a mechanism to.
I think we can all agree that Roachford really doesn't play a factor in the equation, right? Because there's only his addition. And this is just the lawn, this is minor grading in the lawn area at the back. And all 3 landowners understand how this has been designed and how it all has to work together, because we've sat and explained that to all 3 of them. Trying to get to the sheet of the contours here. So the majority of, you can see the existing contours here. This is the 321, and so 322 is pulled back to here. 321 is pulled back to there. So the majority of the grading to create compensatory storage is on the Doors Unlimited lot. And that's who sold Dr. Coakley the building, right? Red line is the same owners, Scott Morrissey and Brian Cody own these 2 parcels. So they're all well aware of that. I think that, like you're saying, is what's an appropriate condition to make sure that that flood storage gets created, regardless of whether this project and this project go forward, because the intention is to immediately start the Coakley project upon receipt of approvals.
Not sure how to do it.
Maybe
the word is easement.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a potential. I mean,
We could show a
yeah, I
proposed
mean,
easement.
I've
line.
seen that done plenty of times too.
Yeah, that's what we did on Landry's Lane, is we showed a proposed easement that would follow the limit of the compensatory storage. And it would be for the benefit of Backlot Realty Trust, New Hamilton Realty Trust, and JCN Properties, that would give them all the right to enter and create that flood storage. That's,
And I'd like to see that drawn up too before making a decision on it.
you'd like to see,
The easement language.
okay. I think that that could be potentially handled as a condition, but prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall provide proof of an easement plan and document granting the right for each of the landowners to enter into the easement area to construct the compensating flood storage shown on the site plans dated such and such.
Yeah, I personally, I'd like to see it beforehand, just to make sure it works and that everything's covered.
I'm pretty sure we already have one drafted from Landidy's Lane, so it shouldn't be a big deal.
Well, you've got to do the plan for it and everything, so it's gonna be,
The plan would literally be the line I just drew.
yeah,
There would be proposed easement.
okay.
And it would follow that red shape. That's it, it would be an easement line that follows. And it would say proposed, you know, proposed easement. And this would, you know, compensatory flood storage easement area. See easement dock.
Right, so what I'm suggesting is you get that drawn up, then we add that language to the order as a condition, and then prior to the order becoming active, that you record that easement as well. So we can see it, take a look at it, make sure that it makes sense, condition that into the order, and then you record that easement, get that recorded prior to the commencement of work. I mean, that would satisfy me.
Okay.
Now, this is one site that I did not get to. I thought we were gonna do this as a group of commission members, and that meeting got canceled. One of the things I noticed on the plan is that you're showing a ILSF that's very close to the existing BVW.
Yep.
That's non-jurisdictional,
Um,
or what you
Not
call it
ILSF, IVW,
What's that?
isolated vegetated wetland.
Right, isolate, oh, okay, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're just, what, a few feet from the regulated one?
Mm-hmm.
Is that very clear, or is that something that your wetland scientist should be there for when I'm there?
It's really clear, one's in the lawn area, one's in the woods. It's, the one is just a small depression in the lawn area, and then there's like a little knoll, and then you're in the.
So there's a
you're in the
clear
woods. There's a clear
hydrologic break, okay,
I
Yeah.
can confirm that as well.
okay.
And he did test bores, it was already.
Yep, Scott Morrison from Ecotech did the delineation. Yeah, this is all lawn area now, and the tree line is here. Like that.
Let's see how they go.
Oh. Yeah, you can see the tree line here. So I guess it does go partially in the trees. But it's clear, there's a depression where the BVW is. Actually, you know, there's a drain line here that comes from the abutter's property, and then there's a roof drain from the building that comes out. So it's a pretty well-defined area. It's not a very big area,
Okay.
not a very attractive wetland.
A lot of knotweed.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
These drainage chambers that are underneath the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
you show an inspection port on the isolated row.
Mm-hmm.
I was just curious, what does a maintenance program on these things look like, and what's the frequency?
So the maintenance is provided in the back of the drainage calcs. But if you had to do anything to the isolated row, you would get like a jet truck and rinse it and vacuum any silt that did get into that. The isolated row it's completely wrapped in fabric, so that's where the water comes in. If it's not captured in the catch basin sump prior to getting in there. But that's it. I mean, the inspection report would be up to grade. It's a cast iron cover in the parking lot. You open it up, flashlight down, see if there's any silt buildup. But typically, if you maintain your upstream stormwater controls, then you really don't ever end up really doing much to your infiltration, underground infiltration basins.
We had systems, we had maintenance contracts on years ago that we inspected them for almost up to 6, 7, 8 years before we even had to clean them out.
Yeah.
It's really if you keep your sumps clean, you know, if you do your job, if you don't profusely sand your parking lot in the winter, and then if you keep your sumps clean, then really it's pretty clean water running down. And you have hooded catch basins, so really not much is running down into these.
Questions? Anybody in the audience want to speak on this? Well, these 3 notices of intents? Second time and third time? All right, why don't we leave the public hearing open, and would you like the continuance to the next meeting?
Yeah, I think definitely within a couple days, not even a couple days, a couple hours in the morning, we can draw the easement line on the plan. And then as far as getting an agreement drafted up, I would think something definitely by midweek of next week, we'll email to the commission a PDF of the document and the drawing. So hopefully that should give you sufficient time before the next meeting to take a look at it, and we look forward to buttoning things up at the next meeting.
Okay, next meeting will be September 26th, is that correct, Mr. Bengazi? Okay. If you could have all that done, I think, if there's any questions, we'll come up with them, but.
Yeah, if anything else comes up in the
I think
meantime,
we're good at this time.
feel free to email us, and we're excited to get going on it.
Any comments, Mr. Bengazi?
When is the planning board meeting?
This coming Tuesday, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
great, thank you all very much.
Good, thank you. All right, moving on to our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, would be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent. I'm terrible at names, by Dominic Marabello for the construction of a 30 by 30 addition to a single-family home. Work is proposed within a wetland resource area, address 35 Day Street, map 577, lot 27A. Do I have somebody representing the applicant?
Yes, my name is Nick Oldfield, representing them. Marco? I know you have it in your package, but I have just the
Excuse me, Dan. Excuse me. Anyone in the audience want to sign this if they're going to be speaking or here on behalf of the project? It's just so that I get your name right in the minutes. Is there anyone that needs to sign it? Thank you. We have a lot of people coming in and out. Thanks.
We're here for Mr. Marabello for a proposed 30 by 30 foot addition to his building, to his house. He just does personal training in the basement of the building of his house. And the 30 by 30 is pretty well set because of the type of the equipment that they use and for safety aspects of the equipment. So we try to squish this down as much as possible. We did try to bump it out a little bit outside. You can see the little 2-foot jog in front of the house. But that allows us to turn inside and get into, because there's garage doors, into the side of the building. So that's what necessitated us to have a small 92 square foot filling of the resource area with a 120 proposed replication area if the commission sees that that is required. In a nutshell, that's pretty much the project. It's pretty simple. And I open it for questions.
All right, I do have a question.
Sure.
I guess, is there any way to configure the 30 by 30 so we don't have to do any replications?
Well, we looked at trying to push, again, trying to push that, slide that closer to the lot line.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't get the turning radius into
Okay.
that garage door. So that's the biggest thing. That's why we pushed it as much as possible. I have a turning radius, typical turning radius from the
Yeah.
city. They come into that garage and that pushes that.
Is it a two-car? Is that why it's
Yes.
30 feet by 30 feet,
Yes.
not 12 feet by?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's a door on one side. There's
Okay.
a door and a garage door.
Have these wetlands been delineated?
Yes.
By?
Matt Merrill.
At my-
Yep, and he's here tonight if there's any questions on the wetlands.
All right. Any questions, comments, Commissioner members?
Looks like Brad.
Go ahead, Brad. Yeah, I'm just trying to review, so.
Thanks, just full scale?
Yes.
Okay. So the existing house is about 20 feet from the wetland right now?
Yep, yes. There's actually a deck that they're gonna be tearing down, I think, right on the back, but that's off the back.
Okay. All right, I mean, I have some pretty big reservations about filling in wetlands for an addition project. Unless you can show that you meet a limited project criteria and something different that's gonna allow for it, to me, it's gonna have a long-term impact there because the house is sitting in the wetlands. I'm not sure you can construct, not the house, but the addition. I'm not sure that you can actually construct this as shown with the hay bale right up close to the foundation.
Well, we had the hay bale's 3 feet wide on the pen widths.
Yeah.
So then we had 3 at a 4 foot. If you scale that, it was almost like a 2 or 3 feet on that side.
And,
Block.
okay,
So
and then,
now our calculations accommodated for that.
and then the long-term ability of being able to maintain that in the future or whatever without having to go into that resource area. There are trees back there. What I see commonly with homes and why a lot of communities have bylaws that prohibit you from even going this close to a wetland. Because the first thing the homeowners will say, well, the trees are gonna damage my building now, I better cut those down, things of that nature. I really would like to see an addition layout that's gonna be outside of the resource area.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Is there a way to narrow this thing down and just run it along the back of the side of the back of the house? You need 30 by 30, right?
We need by 30 by 30. Yes, what's that? Yes, you can shorten it, or?
Well, 30 by 30 is.
Green go with the white, right?
Is it the square footage that you need, or is it has to be 30 by 30?
No, it can go like 28 by 32.
So we could go more narrow and get out of the resource area.
Yeah, if I have to go 32 wide or whatever,
Right.
you know.
Unfortunately, I would have to agree with Mr. Stone. I would like to see it not, because you're talking replication, but you're also talking long-term maintenance around the building.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how deep this goes, but I mean, Brad, did you scale this to see what is this
What's your
distance?
question, that distance?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which one?
Basically, the largest distance of replication.
7 feet.
Yeah, I'd like to be
So
no
if we
more than
go,
20 feet wide.
so if we went 20, by 40. That'll bring you about 4 feet off wetland flag 5.
On this side of it, it's still about 3 feet.
How far would you like off the, if we go 5 feet off the edge of wetland? I think 18 by, by 40. How's 18 by 40?
Stuff's gonna do the construction, it's gonna end up with a flat roof on it. That's no problem. So I wanted to get a nice peek into the other valley.
Is there an architect working on this with you, Ken?
Not yet. This is the first step. This is the first step, is of the proximity to wetlands.
Doesn't give you the area.
As you 740.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're looking for 900 square feet.
Right.
I guess that would be my comment, is there a way we can build it so we don't have to get into the wetlands and still give you the square footage you need? Is there a reason why you have two garage doors?
It's really tight, the ceilings are tight down there, so it's not, and then if I take that, there's no room for another garage, you know what I mean? I can't go and put a garage on the way the driveway is, you know what I mean? If I could do that, then I'm too close to the property line, I don't have that
Right.
on that side,
Existing garage.
you know what I mean?
Here.
It's real tight.
It's just the time here.
He's got a certain setback.
To try to close it here.
Here too.
Going 15 feet off the sideline. They're not just, they're just not gonna, they're gonna have to put the door in the front. Here. So it'll be 45 by 20.
Where's
Is
the
that okay?
existing?
45 by 20.
Yeah, I mean, I like the, I wish I could, you said
Problem.
26 feet, I think, you know?
The problem is you can't, if you're gonna go, they'd like to have 5 feet off the edge of wetland. So this brings it to 45.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, 20
I'd rather
leaves
not
you with about-
replicate
Yeah.
wetlands.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So this is your 40 by 20. 45 by 20.
Right. Some feet's right here from the, there.
12 feet,
Well,
And how much to the property line from the?
15.
15. Yeah. And there's no way I can go wider and go shorter, huh?
Not without putting in the wetlands.
And that's without removing wetlands? or
Yeah, the commissioner said no filling wetlands.
No moving, or nothing?
Well, we haven't technically said anything.
Yeah.
We're getting comments, right?
I think 45 by.
we'd prefer, because you're adding an addition, we'd prefer to not fill wetlands.
It'll be very well maintained, I can tell you that.
If there is absolutely positively no way, we may consider it, but we'd prefer not to.
So I gotta just
Especially at
figure how I'm
residential
gonna just put the structure up, that's why. I know it was pretty simple going, the roof line would have matched up perfect, everything would have been, you know, nice, but,
I mean, you can continue it for 2 weeks to our next meeting,
yeah,
and it can give you some time to rethink it.
right.
It's just, there's gonna be a lot of conditions and a lot of things we're gonna ask for to
Yeah.
fill in that wetlands that you might wanna think about.
such
It's
as.
changing the
And to
building.
protect the edge of it right up against the building, that's.
Yeah, because that's,
So one more
Sure.
comment. So Ken, as you're looking at reducing the width and increasing it in length,
Yep.
now we're pushing the building closer and closer to this part, which we didn't have before.
That's right.
So I'm still gonna have concerns about how much upland you're gonna have between the building and the resource area. As potential mitigation for that, I could potentially consider additional replication, go above and beyond 1-to-1. It looks like you've got some area down in here. So at least if you, for some reason, lose a little bit over time because everything's so tight to the building, you've created some extra that may offset that loss.
where you're talking over here.
Right,
Yeah.
because as he's kind of rough drafting it up now.
Yeah, it keeps
it's
going
moving
this
that
way, yeah. To
And
do
that's
more
out
of
and that's out of the way.
Originally to the left.
replication area over there, yeah.
Now, where's the existing garage door?
Grass doors.
It is there, okay.
So drive under from the side.
So considering that if we go 20, Mr. Bergwall says 26 is what you like?
Would be nice.
Thanks for your phone, by the way. So 35. 26 by 35. That still puts us in a wetland in that corner. So.
Yeah.
So if we pull everything that way and go 26 feet, we won't have, we'll still have wetland filling this side, but you're saying maybe more 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 replication maybe
Yeah.
on that side.
What's in that corner now?
It's trees.
So it's just
I took
wooded
that- We
upland?
did big tree, there's big trees over here, that's why we picked over here, because it's, if you come out here,
Small vegetation?
smaller vegetation, if you come down here, it drops down for like a half a foot,
Okay.
which demarks pretty much the edge of wetland.
Okay.
So I don't know if you go over here, you're gonna be cutting trees, over here, you're not gonna be cutting as many trees.
Cool.
But we are, now that we're coming off 35 feet, now we're further away from this corner.
Cool.
So as far as direction wise, I don't know where you'd like the replication area.
Because it's so tight, I definitely don't want to do anything tonight. I definitely want to see some new drawings.
Yep, that's fine.
Um,
I'm just looking for direction as far as where you'd like the replication, that's all right.
Without seeing the site, ideally, I would say down here, like Mr. Stone said, but I don't know the site well
Marco.
enough to. Have you been there, Marco?
I've been here twice. Where you're proposing the replication, I agree with. So it'd be a matter of expanding off that point.
The other property is no.
This other property, this is
It's not
some sort of
It's a right of, it's. yeah,
right of
it's-
way or,
Okay.
so he's confined to this lot, right? It outlined in blue. It's tight for replication.
What I'm saying is to this side,
Oh,
it's
that
wooded,
side.
yeah, not to the property.
I get you.
He said it's really wooded,
It is very wooded over there.
so it'd be easier and more advantageous to.
It'd be more
replicate.
accessible where he's proposing it, rather than trying to get back here. There'd definitely have to be some tree clearing that would be involved with getting in here.
Okay.
Actually, it's, you coming down here, it's pretty clear, it's sapling,
It
it's
is,
not
yes.
big. Over here, you've got 24-inch plus
Yeah, okay.
trees.
You have plenty of access on that side, on
To
the
do some
northern side of the
replication.
property. But yeah, it's gonna take some doing to do that southwesterly corner there.
I would like to see, I'd like to see as little as replication as possible.
Okay.
A new drawing with a smaller building if possible, or a repositioning of it. And I'd like to see because you're gonna be so close to wetland, I'd like to see a 2-to-1 replication area
Very well.
somewhere else to, because undoubtedly, if it's 2 feet from the building, it's gonna end up being 5 feet because people are gonna wanna walk and
Yep.
it's human nature. So I'd like to see a 2-to-1, and if that's the better replication, but again, I'd like to see where the new position to scale would be so we can kind of better gather. Comment, yes.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is, I'll ask you to just show the proposed grading for the replication areas, just so we make sure that that's gonna work.
So small.
Well,
Yeah.
the issue is it's right up to the property line, so
Yeah.
I wanna make sure you're not trying to create a trench and that's gonna be your replication area,
Right.
because that's not gonna work either.
Would you like to continue it to the next meeting, sir?
Yep, please.
Okay, and if you could have those changes made.
Did we ask the public?
Oh, sorry, we haven't asked the public, I'm sorry. Would anybody in the public like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third time. All right, I will leave the public hearing open. The applicant asked for a continuation till the next meeting, which is September 26th. Yeah, if you can bring in kind of new plan and things we talked about, that would definitely
Not a problem.
help us make a decision and get you guys what you want and what we think is fair.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good.
Comments? Okay. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
All right. Where are we at? All right. Our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider a request for determination by the Lake Samoset Property Owners Association regarding expanding an existing detention basin located at the corner of Lakeshore Drive and Clubhouse Drive. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
Yeah, there are several someones. My name is Pete Lanza, 81 Lakeview Drive. And you come up in. Ed Hemlin, what's your number on Lincoln? I don't know.
72 Lincoln Drive.
What we have, I've got some pictures of the existing. First of all, I want to thank Marco for coming and looking at the site.
Thank you, sir.
And what we have is a existing catchment there. And I want to make something that's more permanent, at least, or extend beyond my lifetime, so I don't have to worry about it. And what we have there now is doing the job that is deteriorating. It's wooden. I have some pictures on my phone if you want to look at it. Again, Marco's seen it, so he just has an idea. We're going to make something that's a little bit more shallow and extends out. Well, the plan's in front of you. And the description is Apex would do it, Mike Laney, and that's the proposal from him.
So currently, right now, it is a wooden structure, you said?
Yes.
And it's just deteriorating into small?
Yeah, eventually it's gonna go. We get a lot of, it's very steep, we get a lot of runoff from Lincoln in particular. And there's a lot of regrind up there that would end up in the pond. So that halts out. We have it cleaned every year. We have detention areas that we've established all around the pond. We take out anywhere from a couple
6 to 8
tons
tons a year.
that would obviously end up in a pond with all the other things that come with runoff.
It was going into the pond
Yeah, so
and creating a
we've
delta.
we've been ahead of the curve on stormwater management. But this structure it's not gonna last, what's there now.
Okay. Now just describe to me what's there now? You say it's a wooden structure,
Would you hold it?
Sure.
just so I can get a better idea, or commission members.
Yeah, I'm doing it on my smartphone, so. And I need a 5-year-old to,
Don't we all?
help me. Oh, here's
I
one.
think you sent this to us.
Not the picture.
This we've seen, but I have not seen.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a sense of what's there and what.
Okay. I think this one will probably show you. That's right at the base. You can see what's there. It weeds in.
Yes.
So that's, you know, this is our last area to have something that is, I'll call it permanent in quotes.
Basically, it runs off into that,
Yeah, it
weeded-
tremendous, yeah.
and you just have that wall kind of holding it back
Yeah,
and
and
protecting
we go
it.
in and
You guys muck it
we get
out.
some of the backhoe to take out, you know.
Okay.
muck it out every fall. Part of the reason we want it wider is the drop off on the edge of the road right now is rather radical. We have to reinforce it. You can see the granite, we have to put it, so what happens, you get that turbulent action that comes with floor footage. So if we, that would help. It would make one of my neighbors real happy if it wasn't quite so deep. Somebody going off the road, which
Right.
if you go off the road, you go off the road. But that's, it'll be something to be maintainable. We've put surface structures. The city years ago put a catchment with a drop, and we don't have the ability to get in that and clean it out with these structures. And again, Mark has looked at all of them. You know, we can annually take out whatever sand or, I mean, it's mostly sand.
Right.
You know, that's the culprit. And of course, that prevents all the other things that come with runoff.
So basically, you're proposing to take out the wooden structure,
Exactly.
put in this 4 feet high concrete block wall with a 4-inch cap.
We're gonna use we've talked with Mike about different, and we're not going with the cheapest thing. Because aesthetically, we want it to be, a pin and block.
Okay.
And what would happen, that would allow with fabric on the wall, would allow it to weep.
Yeah.
And the top of the wall, which you can't see, we do a castle structure, so, you know, if we had a huge amount of water, it would have an outlet, you know,
Right.
without concentrating the flow.
Right. And you're proposing to fill it with a 3/4 inch stone?
Right.
For drainage? Now, what about for maintenance of that at that point?
We annually, we go in and take out, we have several places around the lake, five where we remove any of the, usually at the intersection, like I live on the corner of Lakeview and Grove, so whenever you've got a road running down to a lake, you just
Right.
created the ideal situation for
Okay.
runoff. So we've interrupted all of the runoff around the lake. There's no direct from the roads. And then, as far as property goes, we work with the owners to do so sheet flow.
Right.
You know.
It says remove of tree and invasive plants. How, tree, I'm assuming you're just gonna cut down?
Yeah, the
And
tree to get
remove,
pulled out. Yeah,
you just-
there it's Oriental bittersweet.
Okay.
We've done a lot with Oriental bittersweet, trying to get rid of it around the lake.
Okay.
Those are.
How are you gonna get rid of it?
Get rid of.
Your invasive species?
Well, he'll be digging out the area
So
with
you're
the
just gonna
invasive
tear it out,
species.
you're not gonna put any sort of herbicides or any?
No,
You're
no,
just
no.
gonna be physically removing? Okay.
We could plant purple loosestrife, but I don't think that would be a good idea.
That's pretty.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem with all the invasive species. They're all pretty.
You're gonna recreate it as is, same depth.
Yeah, well, it'll be, the depth will be shallow, but the capacity will be greater.
Yeah.
That's part of what we want to do. And that will allow me to plant, like, you know, blueberries or rain garden type material on the edges,
Around it.
which is what we've done in other areas. We've tried to make, you know.
Make it
functional
better looking.
outlet friendly.
Yep. No, we appreciate that. I'm sure the neighbors do too. Sorry, I took time. Comments, questions? Comments, questions? Go ahead, Mr. Stone.
All right. I just need a few points clarified. The existing basin, the footprint of that compared to what's being proposed here, how is that footprint changing again?
The footprint will be larger.
Okay, but can you show me
The
where?
apex of the triangle will extend out about 5 more feet
Towards Lake Samoset?
towards Lake
Okay.
Samoset from where it is now.
And this is a 4-foot high concrete block wall you're proposing?
Right.
Is that 4-foot reveal, or is it 4 foot from bottom of foot into top?
It should be from footing, right?
So it's gonna be less than 4 feet in height that we'll see.
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be less high towards the front. That's the way I think that Mike is gonna build it.
Okay, because 4 feet triggers building code, and then we know we've got the building inspector looking at it and making sure everything's structurally sound.
Yep.
So I'm trying to figure out if we're at least gonna have that,
All right.
someone else's eyes looking at it for the commission to make sure that structurally it's gonna be okay. I do have some concerns with you're proposing to fill that entire thing with the 3/4 inch stone, or certain part of it, or how's that?
The base.
Just the base?
Yeah.
Just to cover the base.
Yeah.
How-
to
how-
cover,
so
so
how
you've got
deep-
drainage.
How deep will that be roughly?
Fabric. I'm not really sure. You know, it will have more capacity. Mike kind of did those calculations, and
Okay.
we're just exploring.
I guess that was my kind of question is,
Yeah.
if it's 4 feet deep, are you gonna have 4 feet of 3/4
No,
inch stone,
no,
or just?
We would definitely not have 40, that's, I mean, I won't have the, in the case of a major event, we won't have the capacity
Right.
that I want. So we probably go 3 feet or maybe even less with that. I know that 12 inches will take a 2-inch storm, but everybody knows which direction I think the weather's going. So I want something that will, be more than adequate. And which, will take, Lake Lincoln's pretty steep. We do get some runoff from Lake Shore, which is what it turns into, and several driveways, there's houses around there. So Mike looked at all of that before, coming up with a design.
Is there any drainage within the wall itself being proposed?
No, not within the wall will effectively leak, but we're gonna put fabric on the inside so that it won't clog and it will release.
So you're putting fabric behind the wall?
Yeah. That was Mike's suggestion, so the wall won't like silt up or mud up and then just seal completely. I haven't seen a storm yet that it would overflow, but.
No, I mean, my concern is that, I'm trying to figure out if this wall is gonna be okay structurally, and by doing that, you're just actually you're increasing the pressure on it rather than relieving it, so.
I see your point. I would rely on Mike's engineering skills, I mean,
I'm sorry, on whose engineering skills?
Mike Laney, he owned Apex. He's done a lot of work for the city, Ed has worked with him a lot with that.
Okay, so did he draft this, or no? Okay.
No, I drafted that, but,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
and it's a sketch. It's not an engineered plan.
okay, no, I see that. The other.
We're trying to work within our budget.
No, I completely respect that. And there's no reason you're doing this other than you're trying to improve the water quality there. So that I certainly appreciate.
But that handle those thunderstorms.
Yeah.
They're nasty.
The other concern I had was the Lake Samoset does have a zone AE associated with it. There is a base flood elevation on there. When you look at the flood map, it simply shows the 2D reach of that flood zone as being the lake shore. But when you evaluate the base flood elevation, you look beyond that, that goes up the shore beyond a few contours there. So I'd like to make sure that by extending this out 5 feet, that we're not placing fill in the floodplain that would require compensatory storage.
We do have, I mean, you through, I don't want to interrupt you. We do have, years ago, remember when Taunton flooded? And there was a danger of a dam there some years ago. we do have the capacity by two means, which we've historically done, and it's somewhere in the conservation record, where we can, in the event of a major event, we can lower the lake. We have a pipe at the bottom of the spillway, which we can open, and we, the summer boards, which are two 12-inch, 11 3/4 boards, which we in the past have been able, between one or both of those, been able to remove before a storm has hit, and then actually capture the storm as it starts to flow, and we've prevented downstream flooding as a result of that. We have that as part of our dam emergency management plan, which there's a copy of somewhere in the city.
So
We have the, we have to do that and
Yeah,
annually update it. When all the dam rigs changed some years ago, we have an emergency action plan that's on record, and we keep it current, which at this point is pretty much who the board members are. You know, other than that, the state looked at it 3-4 months ago, wasn't it? The spring, when we got the letter. But we haven't inspected.
Tested my memory, I don't know.
It was within 17, and we have it inspected every 2 years, as required by them. It's considered high hazard.
High hazard if it's 2-year frequency.
Yeah,
right?
well, because there's building in the floodplain at I think Shermar and the trailer park, so that's what makes it high hazard. The restriction it was when it crossed the spillway, goes under Grange Street, is also an issue, but that was, that was done back a long, before I was around even. If that's the way they did it then, But we have capacity within that area between the dam and the Grange Street. We have a maintenance road that one engineer told us to take it in, another engineer told us to put it in, another one told us to take it out. But it does give emergency access to the dam itself. As far as structure and everything else, it's always been fine. But it'll always be considered a high hazard dam under that definition. We have an inspection this November. I expect that's what we'll be scheduling that one.
Okay, so I mean, I guess, I know you said you're on a limited budget, and I'm not really at the point where I want to see you do a full-blown engineering design for this.
Yeah. I know our budget's not.
Yeah, I want to see this happen because it's going to make improvements. I would think, a minimal thing you could do just to show that you're meeting the performance standards under the regs is even simply going on to the city's GIS website, grabbing the topo data from that, putting this layout on there, and showing us that you're either in the floodplain and you've got to do compensatory storage, or you're outside of that and you're all set. I do have that land subject to flooding concern, and that's really, at this point. The retaining wall, I do have some concerns with the fabric being proposed back there. Maybe you should just have a cordial discussion with the building inspector, see what they might suggest there. Again, if you're going to be 4 feet or more total from bottom to top, you're going to need a permit from them anyway, so.
All right, any other questions or comments? Would you like to see that? Mr. Stone, would you like to see that before we?
I didn't think so. Yeah.
Okay, I kind of assumed.
So, I mean, see how everyone else feels.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else in the audience would like to speak on this RDA? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dave Cormier, 9 Deer Run Road, for the record, the Ward 3 counselor. Also, I'm a member of the Lake Samoset Association as well. I did a site walk with Peter, and he showed me this basin, which I've seen quite a few times. I know somebody who lives close by, and I definitely support the idea of these improvements because it's a little too deep the way it is now, so I like the idea of spreading it out a little bit. And certainly if you saw, you know, what's there now, it's kind of deteriorating, so I do think it's warranted, so I certainly support what they're trying to do.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this notice, RDA? Second and third time. I think we're gonna leave the public hearing open. If you could do a little bit of that research just on the floodplain and just talk with your engineer or builder about the fabric issue and just,
Yep.
and if it's okay with you, would you like to continue to at least the
Oh,
next
sure,
meeting?
sure.
Okay.
We'd like to if we can. The lake is a winter drawdown. I like to do it, we've got to coordinate with the engineer, you know, pending approval. But we're hoping to do it this fall. It hasn't attained critical mass, but heaven knows when that could happen. But that would be our schedule. We would draw it down a little bit earlier.
And what you've requested is not difficult to do, so.
Yeah, we just want to make sure you're covered. I mean, anything
We
from what
want
I
to do it
saw,
the right way.
what we saw from the pictures and what you're proposing, I think is definitely an improvement. We just want to protect yourselves and the structure of
Thank
the thing.
Yeah.
So any information, we don't want to put you guys as an association at risk if you do something inside of a floodplain, so. Our next meeting is the 26th of September, so it gives you a couple weeks if you want to get that. I think that'll give us the information we
Sure.
will need.
Whatever.
Just get it off to Marco, and
Right.
so it should still give you hopefully enough time between the 26th and the end of the season to get it constructed. If you like, so. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Where are we here? All right. Our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public meeting to consider a RDA by CRX Realty Trust regarding the determination of potential wetland area. Address Heron Way, map 110, lot 6. Is there any? No.
I don't know.
Once again, Kent Oldfield, on behalf of CRX. This wetland was actually brought up as part of a site plan review that was approved by the planning board for the condominiums on Herring Way, adjacent to this project. The wetland line in heavy green is the original wetland line. Mr. McGrath has brought up that there was an area in the A and B series that was in question. Mr. Matt Morrow is here tonight, and I'm going to pass it on to him to talk about the wetland in that area.
Good evening.
How we doing?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Good, thanks.
Good to see you all again. I flagged this wetland at the original wetland about 3.5 years ago. When I was out here, this wetland looked pretty evident and pretty obvious. Where you see the detention basin drawn on the plans, the property owner actually had a hole that was dug in. And I asked him why he had a hole, because when I looked at the hole, it was filled with some, you know, most of the aggressive stuff you'd see, jewelry, some spike brushes, it was all rock. But the aggressive stuff moved in, and he had told me basically what had happened was, when he had done the work out here to build the existing units, water was coming off the hill, and he put that there to hold water back. Now, 3 years later, I go back on an inspection with Marco, and I discover that the hole's been filled. So I asked him why the hole was filled, and essentially what had happened was he was afraid of his liability, somebody falling into the hole, getting hurt, so he filled the hole. So what's happened was you had water that was coming off the hillside, gathering in this pool and just percolating under, to now having nowhere else to go, but out this way. If you look actually at the shape of what I flagged over here, it basically would probably match the hydrology of what's coming out there now. The land had been dug, had been altered. You notice it actually kind of almost coincides with the bordering land subject to flooding, which is your floodplain here. So when I went out with Marco, I looked at it. I went out a couple different times during the growing season, because when I went out, it was early spring, there wasn't anything establishing. I'm glad I waited, because the area I would have marked would have been a lot more narrow than what I found there now. So essentially what you have on this RDA is you're going to have this detention basin essentially acting like the hole originally did, except it's going to, the drainage system is going to clean out the water, it'll percolate through and continue to feed. And that's essentially what happened here. If you look at the vegetation that's out there, what you're going to see is totally incongruent to what's out here now in the original wetland delineation. You have a very well-established forested wetland here, and over here you basically have jewelweed and spike brush. If I remember correctly, some willgrass too. So it's essentially the aggressive stuff that moves in and takes over when you have an area that's dug out near a wetland. It's almost like he replicated something.
Okay. So the detention basin does not exist. The hole used to. And
It was just a hole that was dug.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full
No, I know.
basin,
It's
but
just
now
a-
they're proposing it basically where the hole was. So it actually would function hydraulically like it used to,
Right.
except the water would, have some attenuation for cleaning and
Right.
nutrient removal. You remember, Marco, when we went out in the spring?
Yeah.
We had that little narrow strip that kind of widened out.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You have a question?
You, actually, I guess.
Go ahead.
So the RDA in front of us is just for the wetland resource, it's not for this detention basin?
I didn't file it. Ken, what was the?
It was for the wetland resource, because.
Okay.
So you filed, are you looking for a confirmation on the delineation location, or just that it's a resource area?
I guess both.
Okay, so why wouldn't you file like an abbreviated
Well-
notice of resource area delineation then?
I'm just going by, actually,
Well, it's the area in dispute. It's kind of small for an ANRAD. Usually
Yeah.
DEP would say it's okay to handle something this small. You're only looking at 12 flags.
and it wasn't, from what I understand, was it jurisdictional or not jurisdictional, or I guess,
Well, if it were me, I would question the width. I flagged according to vegetation and hydrology. The hydrology actually would be more confined to the A side than it would be the B side. I just used some caution on the B side because you had aggressive vegetation growing up. So I wanted to err on the side of caution when I flagged it.
Okay.
I mean, I would probably, if it were me, I mean, it's up to you, Ken, or the commission, but I'd probably want to amend this to get a determination on this D basin as well. Because I just don't think the D basin is going to really impact this negatively
nothing's
at all.
gonna impact, no, it's, we did a test, we did a test pit, as shown on the plan, and the test pit was, we showed modeling at 4 feet, which brings the elevation of the water, exact elevation of where that wetland is right now.
So let me, if I understand your recommendation correctly, you want to include the construction of this detention basin as part of the request for determination?
That's my suggestion. The reason why I say that is, again, this detention basin was where the hole was located, so it's already a natural catchment area. It's just before your BLSF and before this little area that expands. And if you look at the shape of this area, you know that wasn't part of the natural wetland that was here, okay, or part of the wetland that was established after it was developed when the old DEP Kingdom was here. This area over here, what would happen is you would have natural attenuation of what's already flowing there now. So essentially the hole would be reestablished, it would continue to feed the wetland, but it would be cleaned out. So there's really no negative impact to the wetland, as long as during construction you maintain the hay bale and the silt fence line.
In the history on that hole, as you called it, was that a detention basin that was required as part of this project, or was it just a hole?
No, he just dug it because he saw water flowing down the hillside and he wanted to catch it.
Okay.
Yeah, there was ruts from the logging area in that area, and there was following the ruts, and
Yeah, it's basically just funneling right to that one spot.
Okay.
Well, what would happen is this area here, you know, built according to plan, in my opinion, would essentially keep this particular area that's now expanded. So not only do you have, you would have like a bordering land subject to flooding, but you'd have some DPW that's now creeping out as a result of the water. The water would be, the flow from the, this would be attenuated. I mean, you have a whole stormwater management plan that would go with this.
These pipes are all existing, the catch basins?
No, this is part of the site, the detention basin and catch basins that go to the detention basin are all proposed.
Everything, so all of this drainage infrastructure, including the detention basin, is all proposed?
Proposed, yes.
Okay.
This is existing, this is proposed, there's where the hole was, and that's where the basin should, I mean, that's a logical place.
So this doesn't exist at all?
Not yet.
Okay, so, I mean, my take on it is I would not be favor of allowing the construction of a detention basin for stormwater purposes under a request for determination. I think that's something that needs to be conditioned in an order of conditions. You're gonna have stormwater utilities in there with a point source discharge. There should be an O&M plan in place for that rides with the title as well. So I mean, that's, I know what's before us. I think if I read how it was written correctly, it's just for the resource area.
It's just for the wetland, but I would point out that the O&M procedures you speak of would be spelled out in the NPDES permit and could easily be put in perpetuity under determination as a deed restriction.
Which NPDES permit are you referring to?
I mean, well, I mean, obviously he would have to do a construction NPDES permit.
Those are only in place for a construction period. Then they're
Unless
gone.
he extends it by agreement.
Yeah, that's outside of our jurisdiction.
You couldn't include that as part of the conditions of the...
I'd like to deal strictly with what we're required to, and it's the Wetlands Protection Act and the stormwater management policy associated with that. I don't want to be trying to regulate a project as part of an EPA general permit, for instance. Those aren't even site-specific. They just require you to get coverage under a notice of intent and found in the stormwater pollution prevention plan. And then those are gone once construction's done. And EPA's really not going to enforce those.
So the determination right now is just for the wetland itself?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what it says here.
Okay.
I want to see the site, see what's going on.
Yeah,
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm not too inclined to do an RDA on a wetland I haven't seen, just because it's changed, so. Would you like a site walk, Mr. Stone? Okay, so. Would you like continuation until we can get a site walk?
Oh, I would definitely recommend it. I definitely agree. If you guys haven't seen it, you want to see it, it's always a great idea to do that.
Okay.
I'd rather have you guys, us talk from a common point of reference
Right.
than having to try to visualize it, you know?
All right, why don't we, I'll open it up to the public, but why don't we plan on a site walk between now and our next meeting? Would anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA?
You just get out of the way, so.
Any second time and third time? All right, we're gonna leave the public hearing open. Marco, if you could send out your little doodle. We'll set up a site walk. And we'll look at the wetland and do the determination at our next hearing, which will be next meeting, which is September 26th. All right. There's that one. There's that one. Perfect. Anything else? Move on to the next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider an RDA by Highland Manor Realty Trust regarding the determination of potential wetland. Address is 826 West Street, map 514, lot 8.
Good evening, it's me again. Matt Morrow for the applicant. On the plan, I went like this and I didn't realize it was that sensitive. Essentially, I was given this plan and asked to file an RDA for the wetlands that were flagged on the site. But apparently, this particular area was divided and shot out before I actually flagged the wetlands. And what I'd like to do is request a continuance for a site walk so we can all walk where I flagged. You've got wetlands back here, goes around this way, we've got wetlands off the site, but still, you know, part of my client's property. And wetlands that come around, head out this way. I mean, there were wetlands that I definitely, you can't miss my flagging. It's bright pink and says wetland boundary on it.
I'd like to walk it, but I'd also like to have the plan done, so I have those survey located, so that when we do walk it, you already have that on the plan.
I'll have my, I'll let my client know that, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Makes sense to me.
So we'll continue it to our next meeting and send a doodle.
Another doodle.
Very good.
Alrighty.
We'll set up a site walk between now and the next hearing, the next meeting.
Sounds great to
We'll
me.
do a site walk.
Sounds great to me, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
If we could shoot for the same day, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Could I
Yes,
just
sir.
ask when those flags were placed?
It was the end of winter of last year. And I've been back there all seasons this year, all growing seasons, to monitor the flags and to check the area out.
As I said, thank you. All right, our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public meeting to consider an RDA by James Barassi for the installation of a flagstone patio area fire pit over an existing lawn area. Works proposed within the 200-foot buffer zone of a perennial stream. Address 258 Exchange Street, map 395, lot 5A. We appreciate your patience.
Thank you. It's been a long day. Okay, yeah.
Sure. So this came in front of me as the work has already been conducted over there.
Okay.
So this is kind of an after-the-fact RDA that's requested for this. Again, flagstone patio area, and I didn't print it out for you guys because it's
I did see it electronically, I just didn't know if you had it.
hard to see via printing. Like the plans I was providing, you can't really tell. So if you reference the pictures, you see the flagstone patio area with a fire pit and a back wall fire pit. I guess that's the term you want to use for that.
That's a sitting wall.
Okay, standing wall.
18-inch sitting wall.
Sure. So this is what it's all about. You had some concerns about erosion in the past with your...
Correct. I've been here for 17 years. I've owned the property. And over the course of the past 17 years, there's been an area closer to the brook that is starting to show some erosion. So when I decided to put the fire pit in, and again, the fire, I thought the issue was initially with the fire pit, what have you. The fire, there was no excavation done on the lawn. I brought in crushed stone and whatnot, built it up to lay pavers, not pavers, but flagstone down. And again, it's over an existing side lawn. I guess what was happening was there is a area roughly 3.5 feet that started to show some erosion. So while I was starting to bring up all the other area to put the patio in, I wanted to shore up this one area so that again no further erosion occurs. There was 6 inches of graded base that was brought in. And again, like I said, the area that's starting to show is roughly 3.5 feet back. The construction is a 2x8 pressure treated 8-foot board, whatever, supported by
rebar.
4-foot rebar. Basically, every 8 inches adjacent to that piece of board. The area was, as I said, it was backfilled with appropriate drainage. Above that was about 2 inches of a patio pack. I guess what triggered this was neighbors heard me compacting, after a day of compacting it by hand, A friend of mine actually decided to bring me a compactor, which was a godsend. I used that, and I guess that's what triggered this whole thing. I'm very cognizant of the brook area that runs really in back of my house. For all intents and purposes, that house should not have been built when it was grandfathered in. There's virtually nothing I can do on that property, barring doing something over an existing lawn. That's pretty much it. I have a water easement that runs through the property. Yeah, it's been trying. And again, what triggered this when I had my conversation with Marco, like I said, there was no excavation. I didn't give it a second thought to have to come before the commission to actually do this. Like I said, it was over an existing lawn area. Yeah, so that's.
How close to the brook or stream?
It's about 15, 20 feet, I'd say.
Okay, that you kind of didn't touch, and then you kind of built this wall and patio?
Yeah, like I said, over an existing lawn. It's a side lawn. It's not even near any of the existing vegetation, foliage, or anything else.
Yeah. But you're about 15 feet from brook, and then the construction or.
And again, like I said, I kind of have to laugh about this because my house may be 20 feet from the brook.
Okay.
And I mean, there is the brook is probably 10 to 15 feet below house level, but it's still a running brook.
Yeah. Have you been there, obviously? Okay. Thoughts?
Truthfully, it's over an existing lawn area, didn't touch any vegetation. The work's been done, it is what it is. However, there are concerns about, now this isn't really our realm to speak of this, it is pretty close to your house, to the fire pit. So there is international fire codes that boil into all this stuff. That being said, I don't think the impacts that you've put there is really large at all. I think it's an improvement for your erosion issue that you had. It's an improvement for your yard. It's beautiful what you did.
Not impacting the stream?
I would not say that it is impacting the stream in any way.
So it actually prevented the erosion?
To me, it did. Definitely changed all the runoff characteristics. I don't see any points of concentration where runoff can really erode anything more. That being said, I'm comfortable with the project as it relates to the Wetland Protection Act.
Okay. We're not going to speak to the fire.
That's fine.
Jurisdiction. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I have a few. You mentioned that the work was completed before you filed the request for determination?
Yeah.
Okay. The pictures I saw in the RDA application, it
Not completed. It was the fire pit was constructed, the sitting wall was constructed, and some of the patio was constructed.
So after you discovered this and requested that file with Conservation Commission, work was still allowed to continue?
I allowed him to place some more patio stones because I wanted him to shore up the area to prevent any, you had bark mulch on the side.
Correct.
I ultimately didn't want it to stay as is over there. Hence why I allowed him to place several more patio stones.
The whole area is not patio. I want to be clear about
I
it.
saw the photos.
Okay.
It's stone, yeah, okay.
But it does not go all the way back to the deck.
Yeah.
There's a walkway from the stairs off the deck, roughly 3.5 feet wide, out to the fire pit. So the existing fire pit that you saw, that's where the patio is. It's not back where the area of concern is.
Okay. The application that's in front of us is determination of applicability is if the project is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. The way I read the regulations, including 10.58, the rivers part associated with that, it is subject to it. There isn't anything that exempts you from it. You do have to comply with the riverfront standards for a lot that was created prior to the Rivers Bill. Okay, there's different criteria for that, so you're allowed some leniencies if your lot was created before then versus created after then, where the restrictions become more stringent. But you do still have to comply with the wetlands regulations. Specifically, this is riverfront here, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, with that. There's a floodplain associated with that as well. There is a base flood elevation on that. I quickly looked at the GIS on site. You're probably above that, but it should be confirmed. And you should also be showing us how you're in compliance with the riverfront standards, particularly the language when you're supposed to maintain a vegetative barrier, a minimum of 25-foot riverfront area. When you convert a lawn to a patio, for instance, you are further degrading that area, you're not improving it. So I'm inclined to vote positive for this determination and request that we come back with that information.
Which means what specifically?
What you should be doing is consulting with a wetlands consultant and going through the project site, delineating where the resource areas are.
It's already been done.
What's been done?
Billy Hannigan did that
Okay.
years ago, when I came before the commission for another project.
So give us that information as it applies to what you just did now. Show us that you're not further impacting anything. How long ago did this come in?
Just within the last 5 weeks.
No, you said there was a plan that Bill Hannigan did.
Oh, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago.
For what work?
There was a deck that was put on in the back.
Okay. We have that.
I assume we have that. I didn't find anything in file, but
Yeah. So you
it's a
still
mess,
you
so-
still need to show us so that you're complying with the riverfront part of the regulations.
Okay. I'm still not clear as to what you want.
Right. That's exactly it. There's criteria in there for work within the riverfront area. You're not exempt from that. What I'm hearing is that you're actually less than 25 feet to the river with that fill?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
right. So that's an alteration of a resource area.
Fine, then what I'll do is I'll put it back to where it was before that.
Well, that's an option.
That will be an option.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Open up to the audience. Anybody like to speak on this RDA? Second time and third time? Recommendation, Mr. Bengarazzi, before I
Good boy.
close
So
the hearing.
Well, regardless of whether you want to return the area back to what it was before or continue with the permitting process to approve of the work that's been done, I think you'll have to file something regardless to ensure that either when you remove it, it's going to be done correctly without any erosion into the stream. So that would include erosion controls for that, to do that. So unless anybody has any other recommendations on this, if you think he's okay with his request for determination and give him a positive determination, or I think it'll warrant a positive determination regardless.
Okay. Any objection to closing the public hearing? All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a positive determination for this request at 258 Exchange Street, that it is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Opposed, okay. Work with Marco and see what your best options are to, you're gonna have to file with us to either return it back or get an engineer to.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, our final hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There will be a public meeting to consider a RDA by the City of Leominster Recreation Department regarding the construction of 2 pedestrian footbridges over wetlands and intermittent stream, address 40 Barrett Park Drive, map 345, lot 1. We have somebody representing the applicant.
Yep. So my name is Dick O'Brien. I'm here with Neil Wine. We are volunteers with the Leominster Trail Stewards working on behalf of the Leominster Recreation Department. And so what we're trying to do here is, in the larger picture, to try and complete the trail network at Barrett Park. There is an existing informal trail that goes from the Gardner Hill Trail and links over to the Waterfall Trail. We did not put that in. It's been there for a good 10 or 15 years. But in the last couple of years, somebody, don't know who, has built a sort of stone walkway across the stream below the waterfall. So that's damming up the stream and getting sediment collected behind that. And then they have built a corduroy through 40 feet of wetlands there that is really just a horror show through there. And so what we're proposing to do is to build 2 structures. One, a little footbridge over the stream, removing the stone, I'll call it a dam, because that's basically what it's acting as. Removing the stone dam, using that stone to sort of armor the banks of the stream on either side of the bridge. Raise that above the stream and have a foot crossing there. And then in the wetland area, to remove all of the corduroy, which is just rotting tree branches and stumps or trunks of trees. Remove all that out of there and build a boardwalk across that wetlands. And you have, I can see people looking at my little hand-drawn sketches here. You've got diagrams of what we're proposing. Did you, by chance, get a chance to provide a little map? Because I didn't have time.
I didn't provide a map. I showed some pictures, but yeah,
I did
map
see.
would have been nice.
I did see the pictures of the stone walkway and the
Corduroy.
yeah.
So we don't know who's been doing that, but it isn't the best practice. I mean, the corduroy is impeding the flow of water out of that. They're continually impacting the wetland soils there and the wetland vegetation there. In the stone dam, as I say, it's just backing up the sediment that is coming down off the hill and filling in that stream bed. So I think the 2 structures are actually an improvement for the habitat in that area. So that's what we're proposing to do. And answer any question. The materials, the city, the recreation department had secured used telephone poles from the work that the telephone company did on Pleasant Street and the road leading up to the park. And so we're using those as the stringers because they have the material. It's basically free material. Other material has been left over from other trail projects I've done in other communities. So basically we hope to do this at a minimal cost to the city.
Okay. Questions, comments from the commission? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA? Second time and third time? Mr. Bengrazi, do you have a recommendation, sir?
Yep, I'd like to recommend a determination of applicability with a -2 determination.
What's the 2 paragraph again, can you refresh my memory?
Sure. The work described in the request is within an area subject to protection under the Act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require filing of notice of intent.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Do I have a motion with Michael's recommendations? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we issue a negative determination per the agent's suggestion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you. So when we do that work, feel free to come out and volunteer your time and effort. I need about 10, 15 people to help drag these 22-foot lines.
Yeah, I was wondering how you're getting them up there, but.
Well, we're going to use nylon straps.
There you go,
and,
yeah.
Have
That
like 5 or
manpower.
6 of them and carry them up there.
They built the pyramids, right?
Have you seen the waterfall path?
Yes, yeah, I know where
Boy
it is,
Scout.
yeah.
And we finished it with them and using the same thing, the straps. We
Yeah.
have Volkswagen size boulders.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Well, thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Appreciate it.
Great night.
Is there any opposition if I took a 5-minute break for?
Oh, no, that would be great.
Thank
How
you.
much we got? I'm opposed.
All right, we are back. So I call to order the regular portion of our meeting. First thing, certificates of compliance. 207 Mill Street, DEP file number 1991034.
Sure. We last time we had a meeting on this, it was requested that we get some more information about the floodplain area, and so I got a revised letter that basically states that, and I'll allude to what kind of went on with this. I don't even know what my letter is. Regardless, oh, here it is. Let's see. To City of Leominster Conservation Commission regarding 110 Grill Restaurant in 207 Mill Street, Leominster, Mass. Please be advised that based upon a review of the record survey as-built plan prepared by Control Point Associates Inc. dated May 17, 2017, as well as a review of the civil site plans prepared by our office dated July 13, 2016, and revised through August 10, 2016. We have determined that the civil site work has been completed in general conformance with the plans approved by the City of Leominster, including the minor work within the floodplain, which did not result in any required compensatory flood storage. Please call us with any questions or comments pertaining to this matter. Very truly yours, Bowler Engineering, signed Joshua G. Swirling, professional engineer. So what this was alluding to was some floodplain within 3 parking spaces in front of 110 Grill off of, that would be Mill Street there. What happened with that is that I included it in the order of conditions. Grab this. Included in the order of conditions that ordering land subject to flooding, that there was 1,775 square feet of proposed alteration. There was 1,775 square feet of permitted alteration, and the proposed and permitted replacement for that alteration was 1,775. So it was the same replacement as what was proposed and permitted. So The floodplain was in those those 3 parking spaces over there, and they didn't change the topography at all to accommodate for those parking spaces. So the work that was done within the floodplain didn't require any compensatory floodplain storage. Okay. Because it's the same topography. So that's what I have here for you tonight. If you agree with that, if you want more information.
I think I remember this, and I can't remember all the specifics, but I know it was a minimal issue on that site. So, so what they're saying here, and what you know is nothing was altered, so there's really nothing needed to be done.
Correct.
For compensatory storage. Let's get late. Okay. Comments? Okay. Issues with issuing a COC?
Nope, everything's stabilized over there, looks good. We got this letter, we got the as-built. So I recommend we issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 199. 1034.
Do I have a motion to issue
That'll be a
a
complete
COC
certificate of compliance, I recommend.
for that site? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 207 Mill Street, file number 199-1034.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Next certificate of compliance, 83 Cotton Street and 44 Pond Street, DP 199965.
So where we left off last meeting was, again, 83 Cotton Street and 44 Pond Street had come in for a new request for order conditions, which we granted them with the contingent on that they supply us with a certificate of compliance and a request for certificate of compliance and a letter from an engineer stating that the work was not conducted over there, so they want to just close out the certificate, the order conditions that's on site currently, so they can bring in this new order conditions. I'll read this letter into record. This is from Whitnam and Bingham Associates, dated August 4th, 2017, regarding a certificate of compliance for Rockwell Pond LLC, 83 Cotton Street, and 44 Pond Street, DP file number 199965. Dear Commission members, on behalf of our client, Rockwell Pond LLC, Whitman and Bingham Associates LLC has prepared this letter to accompany the Wetland Protection Act Form 8A, request for certificate of compliance. The order of conditions recording Worcester North Registry of Deeds in book 8053 on page 287. The proposed work has never started and the applicant wishes to not do any of the work that the Commission approved in 1990965, I believe he's referencing. Anyway, if you should have any questions or require any additional information regarding this or any other matter, please do not hesitate to contact me at this office. Sincerely, Whitnam Bingham Associates LLC, signed Wesley R. Fliss, professional engineer. So I'd agree that the work that was permitted in 1990965 was not conducted, and I agree that they should be in here requesting a certificate of compliance on the grounds that no work has been started on the site.
I would agree. I was at the first site walk before we issued this certificate of compliance, before we issued this notice of intent, and I was on the site walk for the new order of conditions, and nothing actually has changed other than more vegetation has grown. So I would confirm that nothing had changed on this order of conditions. So, do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 83 Cotton Street, 44 Pond Street, file number 199-965, with the box checked that no work was ever commenced under this project.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, extension permits.
None,
Do we have any new communications?
no.
Minutes, we have August 27th, and we have August 8th. Has everybody reviewed them that was present at the meeting?
June 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry, June 27th and August 8th. Has everybody reviewed them? Okay. Any issues? I know,
I caught your, basically the first section of the August 8th minutes referred to Barry Scola as the engineer for the project.
just the wrong.
Yeah, and so I updated that.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't
Do
think
we have a quorum to vote? Because I know some of you were not at one of these meetings, I don't believe.
I was not at the August 8th.
You were not at the August 8th? Mike, were you at both of them, do you know?
I'm pretty sure I was.
Okay.
Mike was.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure you were.
Yeah, I think it was May.
It was presence on the minutes, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
it
Do
was.
you have
so
a copy
it
with you, or?
Not with
No,
me.
I've got it here
in
on my phone,
office.
hold on.
Oh, thank you,
I just
Paul.
want to make sure that, I mean, we should have. a
Yeah, I don't
quorum
wanna vote if I didn't,
one
if I wasn't there.
was
I'm trying to-
Yeah, I read them, I just don't remember who was,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, at the August 8th, I was absent and Larry was absent. Everybody else was here for that. And for the June 27th, Mike was absent.
Oh, it was, okay.
Okay,
Everybody else was here.
Okay,
So we can't vote on these again, June 27th.
We have,
we have four.
Yeah, we have enough.
Oh,
We have 4 for one and 4 for the other.
excuse me, sorry. Continue.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented for August 27th?
June 27th.
June 27th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes for June 27th, 2017.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed and abstained? Okay. And do I have a motion to accept the August 8th minutes with the minor change that I forwarded to Mr. Bengrazi for the August 8th, 2017 minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the August 8th, 2017 minutes with the change to the applicant's engineer.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Opposed and abstained?
I'll abstain.
Thank you. All right, new business.
None.
Marco, you look tired.
It's been a long day.
Old
Sure for all of
business. 767 Willow Street, the driveway.
Yeah, it's gonna be tabled again. I don't
Okay.
have any new information on it.
Okay.
Tabled until the property owner meets with the mayor.
Okay. Moose Brook retaining wall.
I was in correspondence with DPW last week, and they don't have a plan for us as of yet, but they are working on it.
Okay.
So, again, that's a plan for how they're going to meet the resource area alteration standards.
Okay.
Did they give a status update in terms of what they are working on it means, or did they at least get an existing conditions at this point, or?
So what they left off was, we got a long list of stuff, working on it. So, specifics, I don't have any for you on this.
Okay.
Can you keep that on your medium burner?
I'll put that on my medium-high burner, just for you. But no, we did give them, I believe, 2 months to come up with something, so
I couldn't remember.
they burned their 1 month here, so
Okay.
I'll just, keep on them for updates regarding it.
Okay.
It needs to be squared away,
Correct.
is what it is.
Because obviously the permanent fix will be a while, but we did
Permanent's
talk
gonna be-
about some shorter,
Yep.
more issues.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to enforcement. 723 Willard Street.
723 Willard Street, I was in correspondence with the K&P Law attorney, sure. He was on vacation, and he said he was going to issue a letter when he gets back, and that was this week that he'd be coming back. So I'm looking, again, this is a letter regarding an encroachment on conservation land pertaining to a recreational facility that was constructed. So that's what's going on with that one.
So as of right now, we don't know if it's been issued to the property owner.
I believe it has not been issued.
Okay. Can we get confirmation from Copeland and Page when it does?
Definitely. And he assured me of that, so.
Okay. I would definitely like to know when the property owner received it. I'm assuming it's being sent.
I'm gonna request we be on that, CC'd on it when he sends it out, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the wording in it regardless.
Did you say it was a stronger letter than what
That's
you
right.
had put together?
They, it's not gonna be my letter specifically, they had some reservations about it, but they were
Yeah,
going
they're
to.
lawyers.
So, and I'm not, so they are going to make some revisions to it. I'm not specific on what those revisions were, but the wording is gonna be more strict. That's what we got going on with that.
All right. If we could get some sort of update by the next meeting, if not sooner, through email correspondence, just to say that, hey, they did receive it, and if we could see a copy of what was sent, would be definitely great. We definitely don't want to let this slide any further. Any other questions, comments? Okay. 375 Harvard Street.
DEP file number 199781. This is an existing enforcement that we've had. We were going to reach out to DEP regarding the enforcement over there. And that has been done. I was actually in correspondence with Mr. DeMassa today, who met with a Mrs. Denise Childs out on the site regarding the enforcement action.
Denise Childs being from DEP.
Correct.
Okay.
Part of the Wetlands Division.
She's the wetlands chief for the central office.
Okay.
So, from what I was relayed through Mr. DeMassa was that she would be reaching out to his engineer, which is Wyndham and Bingham, regarding the enforcement there. That's all I really have regarding that.
So DEP has the project in hand.
Right.
They've met with the owner. At this point, can we be kept up to the loop, in the loop of what's going on and what's happening with the project, or is it kind of out of our hands? Should we
I don't really know, to
be
be honest
concerned
with
at this point?
No, we never lose jurisdiction of it.
Right,
So we can absolutely be kept in the loop.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, I don't know if that would be the property owner or Ms. Childs that would keep us informed, but this is definitely a large area there, and it's been a sore spot for us for a while, so.
We requested them to intervene. We voted last month to do
Right.
that. I fully expect that they would give us regular updates. I mean, they've already had at this point. So
Okay, good.
I don't think we'll be out of the loop on anything.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that, DEP has a lot on their plate, a lot more than we do, so.
The only time they're gonna keep you out of the loop is if they're doing legal discussions of potentially penalties and things like that. Nothing, until they finalize those things, they won't discuss that with you, but.
Right. Okay, perfect.
I just want
Sure.
a couple of questions on this. The, Marco, the enforcement order you gave me last month to review and kind of reach out to them with, and the one you sent Denise today.
Yeah.
That says the location of violation is 375 Willard Street.
375 Willard Street.
Yeah, it has Mr. DeMassa as the name of the violator.
Oh, boy.
And it has the location of the violation as 375 Willard.
Yep, that would be a fudge up on my part.
Okay, can you look to there are historical enforcement orders?
There are historical.
Can you check the others and see if any of
Sure.
those have the right address, and also forward those to DEP?
I can do that, yep.
And then the other concern I have with this, it's particularly when you're doing enforcement, we really need to make sure we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
Sure.
And these enforcement orders threaten fines and other legal recourse. So the one thing too is it has to go to the actual property owner on the title.
Sure.
So if it's, even though this gentleman may be part of the entity or corporation or whatever that owns the piece,
Yeah.
it has to go to whoever's on the title. And I mean, you can get that from the assessor records or the deed itself. That's not this person, that's another entity.
That's correct.
Okay, so we just need to make sure when we do enforcement orders in the future that that's how we handle that part as well.
Sure.
I expect that I'll have that feedback from DEP at some point.
I'm sure we will.
I already know about it, but
I knew about it after after the correspondence. I was like, oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, yep. Because I had gone on the word of Mr. DeMassa that he was, when I did the enforcement, to go there, it was, yep, I approved the dumping of this, and this is my property. So I went on that word. I should have went into the deed for the property to determine the owner.
The assessor record and the deed say the same thing
Right.
in this case, and it should anyway. But
I thought it was one and the same, I guess, at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first enforcement, that a couple months into it, so didn't go as planned.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll hear feedback from DEP on that, I'm sure.
That's something we can edit.
What's
and
that?
Submit.
Well, it's if DEP is on this right now, I would just let them continue with the enforcement approach.
Well, that's what I
don't want to.
No.
That makes no sense to.
They're dealing with the right property and the right person. It's just a matter of.
I mean the person that's handling this has a lot, and I do mean a lot of enforcement experience. So that's I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Any other comments, sir?
Good.
Okay. All right, emergency certifications.
None.
Anybody need any project updates of open NOIs? How's the city look, Marco?
The city's the city. I'll tell you that much.
Any projects outstanding that you've heard any issues with?
So we actually have the 245 Lancaster Street.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. The Reliant Medical Facility.
Yep.
That's going to be starting up.
Okay.
I was actually just in correspondence with them. They're going to start by removing 40,000 cubic yards of material from the site. So it's a big number. It will have erosion control. I requested that they install erosion controls before they start removing soil, which is obvious. But again, visit the site.
40,000? Yeah. Where's that going?
Couldn't tell you.
Your backyard.
Wealthy buyers. I don't know. So I'm going to inspect erosion controls prior to them touching the site.
Okay.
That's one of the bigger projects going on that's going to start up.
Okay.
What else?
What, I know the North Street, whatever rehabilitation project that went from King's Corner to
Right.
Fitchburg.
The Mass DOT project?
Yeah, what's the status? 'Cause that was pretty involved up there.
It was pretty involved.
I know.
The status of it is that I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know where they're at with the logistical stuff. I think what they were doing a lot, I know they had a lot of gas companies in doing some gas lines. So I think they're trying to get the infrastructure part kind of settled away and then hit it full force.
Okay. But you haven't heard if they're gonna start anytime
No.
Soon, anyways, okay. Budget,
Budget, FY18, I haven't deposited all of my checks. I got an influx of them, but so far we're looking at $2,455 into the wetlands account.
okay. And that's obviously since July 1st.
Correct.
Okay. Agents report.
I have nothing to report.
Chairman's report. I do not have a report this evening. Our next meeting is September 26, 2017, with filing deadline of September 14th, 2017. Anything else anybody would like to discuss? If not, this meeting is adjourned.